Hi VC, this is Bev, Clerk of Vision, and I'm jumping in on this contest that's running at the moment. Actually, the deadline is today, so I'm pretty much just getting in at the last minute. But I wanted to jump on. I just discovered his channel the other day, and it's Aaron, and his channel is Aaron Mutha Alamare. I'll start again. His channel is, let me get this right here, Aaron Mutha Alamare. Have I written that down right? Alamare. Is that it? Alamare, right? Honestly. Sorry about that. So Aaron, anyway, he's got a fairly new channel in the VC. He's got a huge collection by the looks of things. He's already shown some amazing videos, and I think his main kind of area of music is the rock and metal kind of thing, which is fine by me. And so I've seen a couple of other people who had put up contest entries, and I thought I'd check this out. And so I thought I would just jump in, just basically to give him support, because I think it's just nice to support other fellow VC members, and plus the contest that he's asking you to do, it sounded kind of fun, another excuse to have a look through my collection and see what I could come up with. Now, because his birthday is on the 8th of August, which is the 8th of the 8th, he's using the number 8 as the kind of the base number for this particular thing, and what you have to do is you have to show at least 8 bands, preferably from rock and metal, who have only released a maximum of 3 albums, 3 full-length studio albums or less. And I thought, that could be interesting to find. And right enough, I did find 8. I've just gone with 8. You could have shown more, but I've gone with 8 because you know me, once I start blabbering, it can go on and on and on. So I'll just stick with the 8 bands here. Preferably from the 80s or 90s, he said, because that's kind of when he grew up, although there's a lot of newer bands that you could possibly look for, and yeah, I could have picked a few of the newer ones myself, but I thought I will try and stick to back then, which was the golden era. Certainly the 80s were anyway. And I have got, all the bands I've got here are from either the 80s or the 90s when all these albums were released originally. So I will just go through and show you. So these are all my 8 bands that have had only 3 or less full-length studio albums, and I'm showing everything I've got from these bands. I don't have all of the albums, say for example one band released 3 albums, I don't have all 3, I might have the 1 or the 2, but I noted down, I quickly checked via Discogs just to note down what the other albums are, but so let's just get started. So here we go, Aaron. First one up is a pretty cool one actually. It's Roadhouse, self-titled. This was the debut from the band that Pete Willis, former Def Leppard, pieced together with some friends, and they released this in 1991. And I believe, interestingly enough, when I checked on Discogs, there was another album listed under them, but I don't know if it's the same Roadhouse or not, and it's a much later. Because none of the names on that particular Roadhouse match the original members here. Not one of them, I don't think. Because these guys were from England, and I think the other, I'm not sure, but I don't know if the other guys, so I don't know if it's accidentally been put under the wrong Roadhouse or whatever. Even if it is the same Roadhouse band, then that would only make their albums come to 2. But according to the listing, Pete Willis isn't on it anyway. So as far as I'm aware, Roadhouse, there was a one and done album band thing, and this is it. Roadhouse, self-titled, came out in 1991. Second band, I just grabbed this fairly recently myself. These are a German band called No Trouble. not to be confused with Trouble. Now, No Trouble, this was their debut album. It's called Looking for Trouble. That's the title there. It's not actually on the front, but the album is called Looking for Trouble. This came out in 1985, and they had a follow-up second album, which I am still to get, called Watch Out. And that was released in 86, and that's the only two albums that they ever released. I think they're relatively unknown outside of Germany. I don't think they kind of did too well, but just kind of standard melodic hard rock, melodic metal from the 80s. Band number 3, let me just keep myself in order here, is a new wave of British heavy metal band, Fist. So these guys, this was their debut album on the Neat Records label, and it's Turn the Hell On. So this was released in 1980. It's the only one I have from Fist at the moment. So they followed this up with Back with a Vengeance in 1982. And that was it until later in 2004, apparently there is another album they released called Storm. So they kind of must have disbanded and got back together later on. So they had 2 initial albums in the 80s and a further one in 2004. So this is all I have of Fist at the moment. Band number 4 is a CD here. And this band here are Warriors, is what they call themselves, and the album here is self-titled Warriors as well. They're made up of Canadian and Serbian band members. Now, apparently this is their second release. Previous to this, they released an album called One. It's just, or Warriors One, and it was only released, I believe, in Yugoslavia, or on a Yugoslavian pressing, so I don't think it's too easy to get a hold of. And that was released in 1983. This is the second release, just titled Warriors, and this came out originally in 1984. This is a reissue on Attic Unidisc Music, and this was reissued much later, but it is, you know, the 1984 album, and again it's just kind of 80s melodic hard rock kind of stuff, but that was the only 2 they ever released as well, to my knowledge. So if I just put that down there, because I don't want it sitting on the record, because there's more records to come. Band 5, this just happened to be sitting next to the Warriors one on my shelf, so I grabbed this too. Warp Drive. This was their debut, Gimme Gimme it's called, and this came out in 1989 on Music for Nations. And again, it was their only album until, apparently, according to Discogs, they released Something to Believe in the year 2011. But initially, back in the day, this was their only album that they released. So in total, they have 2 releases, and this is the only one I have. Warp Drive's Gimme Gimme. So yeah. Band 6. Back to, hang on a minute, Band 6, next page here, just some scribbles, is another, they're a British band, but they're kind of before, they formed before the new wave of British heavy metal came out, but their albums were released during the time that the new wave of British heavy metal movement came on, so I don't know if that kind of linked them to that genre, if in one way or another. But this is a UK band called Deadringer. I think they're initially from the Leeds area. This was their debut called Direct Line. So kind of, you know, a bit of new wave of British heavy metal sounding kind of hard rock metal. So as I say, this one came out in 1981. This was their debut that was released. And they followed that up with Second Arising, which I do have as well. Deadringer, Second Arising, and this was released in 1984. This one, and again, this is on the Neat Records label. The first one was before they signed to Neat. It was on a Din disc. Yeah, Din disc. It's a label I hadn't heard of before, and then obviously they must have got a deal with Neat Records. But that's the only two records that this band ever released, from 81 and 84. So band number 7 is a band from Seattle, apparently, and it's Rail, and this was their debut album, Arrival. Yeah, and this came out, when did I see? This was released in 1980, this one. Oh, hang on a minute. Wait a minute. 1983, perhaps. This is where it gets strange, because it's got 1983 dated on here, but on Discogs it had 1980. So that, I don't know if it was released in 80 and then repressed in 83. It might have been released independently in 1980. I can't remember. I need to go back and check the history. Anyway, this is their debut album, and this is dated 83 on this particular record. So they followed that up then with an EP, which I've not included because they don't count. But then after that, they released a full-length album, and it was titled Rail 3, I guess being their third release. And after that one, they released, in the 90s, 1997, they released an album called Big World. So 3 full-length albums, and the EP is all this band ever had. So I do have the EP as well, but I'm not showing it, I'm just including these guys for the 3 albums. And that is Rail. And the last band is a band that a lot of people are aware of, and it's Shout. This band here, Christian rock, hard rock, and they released their debut, which was called It Won't Be Long. I used to have this album, but I gave it away as VCLT actually. So I used to have it, and that was released in 88, and this was the follow-up, In Your Face, which came out in 1989. And then that was it for a decade, and then in 1999 they released a third called Shout Back, which I don't have. So that is my 8 bands from the 80s/90s for your contest. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I just wanted to join in there, and if I make the deadline in the draw, then brilliant. If not, that's no big deal at all. But I'm glad to have found your channel, Aaron, so thanks everybody for watching. Take care, and oh, by the way, I will leave a link to Aaron's channel below and the video relating to this contest, but you can subscribe to him via that link, so please do. Thanks a lot. Bye just now.